And good night,
What's
and
up?
welcome to the legend. I am so honored to have Igor Cavalera, the legendary drummer. That I mean, you don't know. I mean, as I told you previously, you are one of the main reasons why I play drums. So, thank you for being here. People are already crazy, asking a lot of questions. So, thank you for being here, Igor.
Thank you, man. Raphael, it's always been a pleasure to talk to you. We've done some stuff before in the past, and we're gonna do a lot of cool things in the future. So this is a good chance for us to catch up and have a few words and just have a good time and talk about drums and things in general.
Okay, perfect. First thing, there is a talk back. So if you have any other like a computer or an extra laptop, something, just please take it away or put it down because I can hear the talk back.
Yeah, that's weird because it
Yeah,
wasn't.
because there wasn't before. So is there
No,
another?
no. Let me try. Let me see what's going on here.
Because there wasn't before. So is there another?
Let me try. Let me see what's going on
Yeah,
here.
there's a couple of. I started reading the comments.
Do you think if I put my headphones on that
Yeah,
would?
just try. Let's try. Because before it was perfect. So as I told guys, I'm going ask you a couple of questions to Igor. I thank you all for being here, and yeah, I'm really happy. So okay, I'm trying to fix the talkback thing, and it looks like it's mine, so it's pretty weird because it wasn't here before. So we're gonna sort it out in a couple of seconds. So yeah, feel free to start ask questions, Igor. So the problem, I don't know why, what happened, but it happens that the problem is mine. So wait a second, try now.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on, but I will just sort it out in 1 second. Just a second, try now. Wait a second. And so it's weird because everything was so smooth before.
I
So
know that's live.
that's live, yeah. Like in the shows.
Yeah.
Let me sort it out in 1 second only. Because it's with. That's live, yeah. Like in the show.
Yeah.
Let me sort it out in 1 second. Yeah. It's like in the shows. So we sort it out anyway. Just keep it going. So first of all, as I said, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your time. I'm sorting things out now. Yeah, so it should be better now. Better? No, it's still okay. Now it's okay. It's working. Yeah, it's okay.
It's good here.
Yeah, so it's perfect. So it's okay. It's like a live. So it's always a problem, but we fix it. So
Yeah.
as I said, thank you very much for being here. There is really no words to say how much I'm thankful for you to put your time and really be with me and with all the fans from all over the world that are coming here. You know, Brazil, Italy, people from Poland, people from my hometown. So you did a lot for the music, for the drumming scene, and I'm happy to have this chance.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, how did you started playing drums? Can you tell me how it was, like everything?
It's a weird one because I even start playing drums before even think about a band. Like for me, the drums, it was something that it was more important even before I ever thought about forming a band. I was already into drumming. And we're talking about when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I was very obsessed with drumming, like to the point that that's all I could think about. It was like to drum. And then, of course, like a lot of people know that I started out, my first passion with drumming was samba, like the Brazilian rhythms, Brazilian African rhythms. And I used to go to football games, and football games in Brazil, they do bring some percussion to the stadium. and I used to stand right by the where they have the percussions, and that was super cool because for me that was my real beginning of feeling the power of a drum. And then of course, like later on, when I start playing drums with a band, I always try to recreate the energy of like samba school, which is when you have a lot of people playing the same pattern. It's super powerful. You know, anybody who experienced like a samba being played with like even more than 10 people, they know what kind of energy that generates. And I always try to somehow translate that into drums. So
Okay, that's really cool because I heard many stories about your beginning, but I never heard like so specific. So basically, you were trying to recreate the same energy, the same power when you started playing with Sepultura. Am I
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. And yeah, please, please.
I was just saying that another thing that not that many people know, but like the first year or I only had a few pieces of drum and I had no kick drums.
Okay.
So even on Bestial Devastation, which is our first EP, like a song like the Antichrist, for example, a lot of people think that it's a blast beat, but it's actually just me playing on the floor tom and the snare, trying to recreate like a double bass kind of thing, because I wasn't using my kick drum on that song.
Wow. Okay.
That's how we wrote it. We wrote it just with the toms and some cymbals, you know. That's what we have to rehearse at the time. So
Wow.
that's another like curious fact that later, you know, people were like, oh, how the hell like that, you know, that beat come up. That beat was out of necessity. It was not having a kick drum and trying to play those patterns without the kick, you know. So that was
Okay. How old
yeah.
were you? How old were you back then?
Like 12.
Wow.
Like 12,
Okay.
12, 13. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I've been always impressed by actually the progression you had, because Sepultura started like it was almost like death metal, let me say. Then things became like more thrash metal oriented, and your drumming in a couple of years became not only faster but very very clean, especially for those times. I mean, even
Yeah.
for today, even if I hear those records today, they are excellently played. But back then, it was even more impressive. How was this development? How did you made it?
Well, if I have to simplify and put in words, I was always like pushing, like you're saying, like always pushing to try to get like drum, like I was saying, like sounding like a samba school or something that was beyond just kick and snare. Which like it's funny because it's like at that time I remember like the drummers that I really enjoy, they're usually drummers who are a bit like sloppier, like talking about like someone like Filthy Animal Taylor from Motorhead. He wasn't the most precise drummer. He was a bit sloppy in places. But to generate like the energy that he did, for me, that was the coolest thing because it was like you almost like felt sometimes, you know, in a song like Bomber that he sounded like he wanted. It was like a train or
Yeah,
something.
that's a very interesting, topic because the metal of today, he is absolutely not sloppy since everything is quantized, but in my opinion, lacks the energy of the rawness. I remember when I heard those records, even if I can hear, I mean, all the tiny, very tiny imperfections.
Yeah.
That's the magic, in my opinion. That's where the magic is.
Yeah, I mean, I hate criticizing things that are going on today, you know, because again, I don't want to sound like this old guy who just, you know, say that it was better or it was worse. But what I can say is like when I listen to an album like you, I like to hear the not perfect things about it. You know, if you listen to someone like even like Lombardo, he doesn't clean his stuff to the point that, you know, like all his drum rolls, they seem like they're not gonna fit, but they fit.
Yeah, that's the
Maybe
magic.
yeah, and also it has to do with the way that he carries himself. The way seems like he starts things with his left hand, so it's almost like, oh my god, that drum is not gonna fit in that song, and then you're like, holy shit, that was cool.
Yeah.
And for me, that's signature. You know what I mean? Like, and for me, that's one of the most important things in drums is to have a signature. You know, like anything else. Like, you know, like we're all still talking about like Eddie Van Halen now, which passed away. He had a signature. Same with his brother, Alex Van Halen. He had such a cool signature sound and a signature way of playing stuff. So for me, like sometimes it's those things that attract me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what can you remember about a certain drum roll? You know, a
And, you know,
certain
you did something amazing. It's like when people hear those songs, they know the feels. You know, they know exactly that. And this is, I mean, the biggest goal as a musician, I believe, is to be remembered. You know, actually, there's a very cool comment here that fits perfectly what we're saying. He says, AG says, thanks for all this great drumming through all these years, Igor. I grew up listening to your music. I was a little kid in elementary school when I started listening to Sepultura.
see,
You know,
that's cool, man. You know, like I was the same kid when I was listening to Bill Ward and you know, like I said, Filthy Animal from Motorhead. You know, I was in school and I was like going crazy with those drums.
and this
You
guy
know,
says, you know, I bought a live Barcelona VHS cassette then, and I watched it with my brother every day. I remember, man, that cassette Barcelona is absolutely unbelievable. When I,
yeah,
you know, as I said, I grew up in a very small city in an island, and when we got this music, it was like absolutely mind blowing. I remember, you know, uh, because everything was so different from anything, and you could recognize your style. As I said, this is the biggest thing for a musician. So I wanna, you know, let's try to clear this point, because you started, as we said, very raw, a kind of a death metal, but with punkish, let's say. You know, it was a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
messy. Then you started playing thrash metal, and you started. I remember when I started learning the tupa tupa tupa, you know,
yeah.
in Brazil, there was a friend of mine, Amilcar from Torture Squad. He says, "Listen, if somebody in the world is making the fastest tupa tupa, you should check Igor in Brief the Remains." So I bought that record, and I was like, "Oh, you know, absolutely amazing." So how was that transition? Because you were playing very tight. I remember, absolutely mind blowing. It's interesting because you were playing, you know, I would say, of course, maybe inspired by Dave Lombardo,
Definitely.
but it was your own way of doing it. So the feels were different. Also the sound, it was very different. So how was
Yeah.
for you that development,
I
especially
mean,
getting faster?
that's the thing. Like, you know, like at first I was really into recreating some sounds that were very influenced by the first wave of like black metal and death metal. And those drums were very raw, like, you know, like Hellhammer. It's almost like a punk band playing metal songs. It's one of my favorite bands of all times. Like, you know, of course, like Celtic Frost, but also Hellhammer. It's so cool the way that they were raw. And then you hear someone like Lombardo, or even someone like, you know, like Abaddon from Venom, who was doing crazy stuff at the time. You know, he was doing crazy fills and just, you know, pushing boundaries. And that it was my inspiration to try to get a little more intricate with stuff that I was doing. And
How
I think sound wise, I think it was also cool because, again, in the first two records from Sepultura, our recordings were very bad, especially in the drums. Like we had no idea, you know, how to make the sounds better on the drums in the studio. And it was just whatever, you know, like whatever the engineer at the time could get. You have very little time in the studio. And I have to say we got a little unlucky because I think the first two albums, they don't really represent how we used to play live. It was very different. We sounded a lot bigger than that.
Okay.
So that's a bit of a shame, you know. But then again, it's part of it, you know. It's all part of it. But then it got a little more. I don't know. I wouldn't say like technical, but a little more intricate, where we're trying like crazy stuff with double bass and just, you know, be influenced, of course, by you know, people like Gene Hongland from Dark Angel, and even like somebody like Away from Voivod. Those guys were pushing the boundaries to try like different drumming at the time, and not just be, again, the kick and snare thing where it can be very cool, but you don't remember, you know, you don't remember, like Lombardo, like you're saying. It's one of those guys, like, you remember the rows when they come on the song and you're like, oh shit, this is it.
Yeah,
That's signature. It's amazing because it becomes a very strong part of the song. And then same, of course, like with someone like, even like Neil Peart from Rush, you know, like besides all his technical stuff, the signature things that he did are really important, you know, like Tom Sawyer and things like that, where people remember every hit, you know.
There's a couple of questions. I want to actually a question from Mauricio. It's pretty cool because I wanted to ask you the same. He says, Igor, talking about signature, how did you develop your signature when it comes to the little break on the snare after the question, the skank beat? So when you look like that's yours. I remember even the guy. So how was it? Because there was actually the difference between you and Dave Lombardo. You were doing like less fills. I would say no crash. It was like very, if not, how can I say, like, you know, no stop, only that.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that it's really funny, because I do remember, you know, for example, playing those songs with that little breathe. I would say it's not even a break; it's a breathe when you between the kick and the next thing. And I think it was the guy from Morbid Angel.
Okay,
that, yeah, he came up to me when we were doing a Rise, and he was like, how did you come up with that, you know? And I was like, I don't know, that's how I do it, you know. It's not something that I planned. It's one of those things, because I was like trying to do it, but I felt like if I had that little breather thing, it always kept like a cool, like almost like a mantra, you know, thing going, where if I just play straight, it felt like it didn't feel as human, you know. So I added a bit of a human side to it.
Interesting, because it's very unique when you hear it, and it's like pretty unique. Like I would say the other very signature is tu pa pa, the double snare at the end, tu pa
Yeah.
pa. So how was this kind of stuff? Did you stole it from somebody, or it came from a mistake or something like that?
I mean, I think any drummer who say they don't steal, they're lying. You just steal it, you know, and make it your own thing. But we all steal. You know, if you listen to a row, for example, from, I don't know, from a pop song like The Police, for example, and then you're like, oh my God. And then you try to do that row, and then somehow it becomes something else. You stole that, but it's already something else. It's people never gonna know unless you copy it, and that's different than copying it. You know, it's just, you know, those double snare things. They are those little things that sometimes you hear even in a song that it's not even metal, but you're like, oh, this is cool. That drummer does that thing. You know, it can be someone like, I remember the guy from that band Prong from New York.
Okay, yeah, sure.
He had a really cool style like that. He always did like a lot of cool stuff. And then, of course, later, like Danny from Biohazard, he had a lot of cool like snare, like little accents. And then, of course,
So he's a great drummer, Danny from Biohazard, very underrated. He never got the recognition he deserves. But I think I think the same as you think. It's great.
Man, you if you listen to any of the Biohazard stuff, the drumming, it's amazing. I love it. And then of course, like John Steiner from Helmet. Also,
Wow, yeah, he's a great drummer. Yeah.
It's a huge influence. He's a great friend, a dear friend of mine. And he's one of those drummers again that when you watch him, you can't stop but have a smile on your face, because it's like it's enjoying watching someone like that, man. Like a lot of power, but also a good way of finesse of doing certain things on the drums.
Yeah, I mean, he puts the magic in Helmet. I mean, Helmet is a great band, but the drumming is wow. Yeah, it's one of the things like it really put the how can I say, we say in Italiano, la ciliegina nella torta. It's like there's something on the cake. Well,
the cherry on the cake.
Cherry on the cake. There's a question from Enrico who says, the jump you did to get schizophrenia is outstanding. In terms of intentional technique, what enabled you to do it in such period of time? So in schizophrenia, you did really, it was like a big improvement in a short period of time. What made you, there was something you were doing, like you never took lessons, right? Drum lessons, or you did?
No, I never did. I never had a cool teacher like you, man.
Oh man, I'm honored. As I said, there was a comment on the Instagram of somebody says, "Hey, explain to Igor the blast beats." I say, there is nothing I will ever be able to explain to somebody who's the reason why I play, and it's always the same, And
no, but I have to tell you, like, if when I was young, starting up, it was a cool school with people like you teaching, I would have lessons. I have nothing against lessons.
Oh,
I was not lucky enough to have a cool teacher. I tried.
I know the same thing happened with me, but I was lucky that I went to Batera's Beat and I met Dino. He was the first teacher, as you said, the first guy who didn't want me to play a specific style. He wanted me to teach, understanding theory, and this was for me cool, because back in Italy, if you were playing metal, I remember, okay, a cool story. It was one time I went to a jazz masterclass, and there was this guy asking to the people, who's your favorite drummer? Who's your favorite drummer? I was a kid, and everybody was like, John Bonham, or Buddy Richard said, who's your favorite? Igor Cavalera. And the guy was like, what band? I said, Sepultura. And they were like disgusted. They were like, no,
really?
They were, no, this is not drums. Because back then when I started, that was the mentality. But when I was in Brazil, it was different, because I said, what band you like? I like Igor. Oh, sure. Everybody likes Igor. Because the truth is, everybody who's enough open-minded to understand the beauty of art, in a very in its wide, in its variety, understands that, dude, what you did for drumming is like insane. And so this is important, because as we said, you were at some point, you were like the mastermind of the skank beat and of the thrash metal style. And as I said, told you earlier, I'm a friend of George Collias from Nile, who's the fastest drummer now in the world. And he told me when he was a kid, he had the double bass and it was written Igor and Cavalera in the other one. So it was like, yeah. So, and he told me that when he was a kid, you went to play to Greece. And he said that the day he watched you, the day after, he was like practicing 8 hours a day because he wanted to play like you. So there are way many people influenced by you that maybe you will never know. Yeah. So sorry, there are many questions. There's this guy asking a lot. Is there any plans for a tour with Max in 2001? But I think there isn't, right?
Yeah, plans. Of course, I'll go on tour tomorrow, man.
Yeah. So
the problem is it's something else. We all know what's the problem. I mean, we need to somehow, I don't know, like find a vaccine or something that we can get people together again. That's the main problem, man. We know anybody who's in a band, who's an artist, who goes on the road. And I'm not talking only about musicians, also people in the crew. Everyone is hurting right now, because we do need to somehow do what we love, which is like play music, especially live. Live is really important. But to answer the question, there is a lot of planning, but if it's going to happen, we don't know.
So let's keep going with the questions. Hopefully, talking about more happy things. There's a cool topic, man. This guy is saying a bateria do Brasil se divide entre antes e depois do Igor Cavalera. So he says the drumming in Brazil is divided between before and after Igor Cavalera. So yeah, you get an idea, man. So that's pretty.
So it's BC. Before Cavalera.
Exactly. Well, as I said, for Collias, it was the same, and many other people said that when they hear it, it was like, how old? Okay. How old were you in the Arise epoca? Sorry, Beneath the Remains or Arise epoca?
Beneath the Remains, I was 18.
Seriously? Wow, yeah. Man, that's okay. So, did you practice a lot with the band? How many times a week?
We did. I have to say, like, that's also a cool story that it will be cool to share, because especially when we were doing like stuff like schizophrenia, even before like morbid visions, when all the kids were going out and drinking and partying and doing drugs, whatever, we were practicing.
Dude, that's the thing people should hear,
Yeah, because I found my drug, man. Like me, my brother, and the other guys, we would go into the rehearsal room and just be there for hours. And I'm not saying we just practiced, but we had fun. Like we were playing stuff that we love. We're playing loud. I was like, again, of course, like that. It's what built me, It was those years in the garage, and that's really cool, because again, if I didn't have that, I'll probably be in jail or whatever, because that was like in Brazil was a reality. People were getting trouble, like there was a lot of crazy stuff going on, and we were in the practicing a lot, and that also. It's cool because I can answer a little bit of that question that it was a bit left out. So that evolution in between, like a short time between morbid visions and schizophrenia, it was during that period. So we were a lot of the time just playing every day.
Wow. Okay. That's because I think 18 or 20 years old playing like that, it means like a lot of hours, because people always say, he had talent. Yeah, but he practices a lot. He practices a lot with the band. Because you don't do that. Especially the speed comes from practicing, practicing, right?
But one thing I have to say also, because we played so much with the band, practiced so much with the band, I didn't know how to play by myself. Like I always enjoy the drumming when I have a company of someone to play. It's almost like if you exercise in the gym or if you play some football with your friends. In the gym, it feels like you're like, oh my God, I have to do this. And then if you go run for an hour with your friends playing football, laughing or whatever, and then it doesn't feel like you exercise, but you did.
Okay, that's a great thing, because I think people like you who always play with the band, you have like I don't know, the magic that comes from the songs that were written together.
Yeah.
And I would always like about, especially older what you did with Sepultura, was like the drumming. I think it's like perfect. It's like there wouldn't be nothing I would change. I would say, all the small details, and it's nothing. And the cool thing, I remember one friend of mine told me once. He said, when I hear things about Igor, I found the joy of something that if I practice a lot, I can do that. So you wanted people to. It's nothing that you hear and say, "Oh, I will never do that." It's okay. I will try my best to reach that level.
Yeah, I mean, even stuff that it was super challenging at the time, like for example, like the end of "Desperate Cry," which is like a crazy ending. I remember even in the studio, I was like, "Man, this is too crazy. I don't know if I can do it." But that was not the idea. It wasn't to play something that people would think it was impossible. It was just pushing myself to do crazier stuff. So I think that's also, it comes from that line of thought of like, it's not about playing something that people are going to listen and going to be like, what the hell is this? I would never play something like this. It's too fast or it's too complicated. Again, it was a line of thought of like, yeah, this is cool. I'm pushing myself to try some crazy shit here.
Wow.
But at the same time, it's possible, man.
Okay, I have a question. I know already the answer, but I want to ask you. So back then, you basically you practice always with a band. So you didn't go. Well, you didn't go to practice pad or something like that, right?
No, because also I had the luxury of have a brother who's almost like a twin brother. So me and my brother, even if the other guys wouldn't want to play, me and my brother were there playing. And that's the crazy thing, which also a lot of people don't know, but Max has like a drummer mentality. You know, he's crazy, man. Like even the way he puts his words, if you pay attention, a lot of it's following the drums. It's not following the guitar or other things. He's very percussive. And I think it comes also from that, from me and him being in a room just back and forth, exchanging like the energy and stuff.
Okay, that's really interesting because I always thought like Max is a great songwriter. You know, I remember even some of the not only Cavalera Conspiracy but the Soulfly. There's a couple of records where I really said these are like records that Sepultura could have done. You know, he was very specific about everything, and even the drummers who play with him, I would follow your way of playing, and it's very cool. I'm gonna write something down. Sorry, this guy said, "Great Raphael, who's always did the exact same thing, like fuck drinks and drugs and go practice." Yeah, I want to say, of course, people can drink and kind of have fun, and this is, of course, everybody's, can do whatever they think. But what I like always to point out, like people who did things, they put like effort into it.
Yeah.
You don't do a band like Sepultura if you just go wasted and you practice 1 hour every week.
No.
It was, and you don't reach the level you reached back then if you just think about booze and getting fucked. So let's let's keep going with the questions. Okay, there's another thing. Federico says, even Fotis Bernardo is a very good drummer. He's a huge Sepultura and Igor fan. I mean, if you're a metal drummer, how can't you be? So that's also cool. Like, how can't you be if you listen to metal? And okay, I'm really reading the questions. Okay, so let's keep going with the evolution. We said you were playing faster than almost I would say everybody. Remember the tupa tupa on, how would you call that? Do you have a name back then for the
No, it was just
tupa
the
tupa.
Fast part.
The fast part. Okay.
We either had the fast part or the slow part.
That's it. Okay. So you were like playing the fast part faster than everybody else. I remember we were watching the videos and watching you play, like doubling everything, very few cymbals. That's very hard. I mean, it's pretty demanding for the wrist. They were pretty demanding. And so suddenly, not suddenly, but then there is the Chaos AD moment where like I would say you reach a higher level of originality, because everybody was like, okay, Igor plays like this, so we were trying to play this way. But even if you were original in your own way, you were still, I mean, a very good drummer, of course, but like one of the drummers. When you did Chaos AD, is where we really found out that you were different than anybody else.
Yeah,
so
I don't know. I think one of the main reasons, especially on Chaos AD, it's like finding, again, like an identity, which, of course, like if we talk about like all the thrash stuff, the death metal stuff, there is a signature there to the way you play, the sounds you choose. But then I think on Chaos AD, because I was very comfortable to go back to the very beginning we were talking about, which is like samba, which is like those things, I could bring some of those elements to what I was playing. And that also made a difference. Because again, I always felt that those things, it's everything I wanted to do. I wanted to play like a samba school. And then on Chaos AD, somehow we found a way of doing it and still having like a really strong identity to it, without just being a mimic of a samba. It became something else because, again, I was communicating a lot with Max, and we were trying to do something that it was samba, but it was also heavy as fuck.
Absolutely. So it was like, because it was like a mixture of samba, some of the fast parts, but you started like playing a lot more groovy, you know. So
Yeah.
and then when did you start having like big toms? On the Chaos AD era?
Chaos AD definitely, you know, and it's also, it's like really cool also because Andy Wallace, which is the producer who worked with everyone, we're talking about like Nirvana and
Wow. Okay.
we're talking about Raining Blood. He was like the main engineer for a lot of the Slayer stuff, and of course, like the producer who gets credit, it's Rick Rubin, but it was Andy Wallace behind getting all those sounds for those guys. And I remember that Andy Wallace, he told me right before we were gonna go record Chaos AD, I asked him, I was like, "What should I use for drums for this record?" And he was like, "Just use whatever you feel like comfortable with, and whatever you are like really pushing for it." And what I was pushing at that time, it was for bigger sounds, like you were saying, inspired by Mike Bording from Faith No More and people like that. So they use bigger toms, and then I start incorporating that with on Chaos AD, and then in Roots got even bigger.
Because then it became your signature. Because those
Yeah,
toms.
then I found something that I was like, wow, this is cool, because I never like floor tom on the side.
Okay.
There's even pictures of me like on like Bestial Devastation. There's a picture, it's really funny, that it has a floor tom, and then I put some drumsticks on it.
Okay.
Because I hated playing the floor tom on the side.
Okay.
I only play on the toms. You know, that was my thing. The floor tom, I was like, oh, I can put my sticks here. It was like a table for me.
Okay, but then it became really your signature. There is a cool comment. Mauricio says, Igor, I have to tell you, my life changed after your workshop in Porto Alegre in '94. I got to play on your set, and you gave me a drum skin signed on the spot. I was 14, now I'm 40. Thank you. Wow.
Now he's old.
Well, he told me, actually, Mauricio is a great drummer, and he told me like his life changed forever. So imagine the impact that you had on the people.
That's super cool, man. Because again, you know, like I know I did very few workshops in the past. You know, only when I felt it was something special. Again, something that we did together in Sardinia, in Italy, and it's always something that unless I felt totally comfortable about it, I wouldn't do it. You know.
I remember when we were talking about Sardinia that I was pushing it a lot, because I remember you were not into it. I said, listen, but trust me, I know, and it's gonna be cool. And it actually was one of the cool. Many people said it was the best day of their lives. There's
cool,
another
man.
cool comment from Guilherme, who says, acredito que eu tive o melhor emprego do mundo. Passei 15 anos ao lado do Igor tocando. Aprendi tudo o que sei da bateria com ele. Meus ouvidos já eram. Ele foi seu roadie?
Eu não conheço nenhum Guilherme, tô brincando.
Eu falei, nossa, 15...
Não, ó, o Guilherme é meu irmão, praticamente um irmão, assim, é um cara que mais de 15 anos sendo como, não só como road, mas um companheiro pra caramba, até hoje. Ele é meu braço direito quando se fala de bateria, mano. Ele toma conta das minhas coisas como ninguém. E eu acho que é legal também falar da importância de você ter um crew.
Okay. Sorry, let's get back to English. So, because we're talking Portuguese.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So Guilherme is one of those guys who's so important. He's like a brother to me, and he, you know, he's I don't know, like a big part of my playing. It's also because of him. You know, he makes sure that my shit was really good, and I had a good company on tour with him. Also, that's super important. You know, and he's a guy who understands drums. You know, he understands how a drum should be set up, how a drum should sound. That's super important. And that's something that you build this relationship with your crew, with your roadie, and it's something that it's you trust that person 100%.
Yeah, because he's going. Yeah, because sometimes you go to the show and you didn't touch your drums, like in a festival. You didn't, like you go and you play on the spot.
No, if you're talking about like if I know Guilherme is there, I don't need to do anything.
Wow.
I sit down on the drums and I'm like, oh, okay, this is it. It's that kind of a relationship we have, which is super important. And I think it's something that it shouldn't go unsaid, because a lot of people who are on the other side, they don't even know those people, the kind of crew exists. Like I remember when I was a kid, I would go to a show. If they asked me what was I thought that the drummer set up the drums. I didn't know they have a crew or anything like that. So they're super important, man.
So there's a lot of people saying, "Hi Igor, when I was a teenager, Arise was my drum school. Thanks for your music and drumming."
I guess I ruined his life.
AJ says, "It was great to see you play drums with Max on the Roots tour. I love the show in Warsaw." So yeah, there's a lot of people. Okay, Graziano says, "Hello, Igor and Raphael. It's real that your second name is like mine, Ciccarelli or Graziano. You're my biggest inspiration. Thank you for your music." Igor Graziano Cavalera. No.
Yeah, that's it. That's my father's name, Graziano.
Ah, Igor Graziano.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. my second name, which I don't really use that much, but he's correct.
Okay, so cool. Another thing is, like, many people, when I put out on the text Igor Cavalera, some people read me, hey, it's wrong. It's with 2 G's. I said, okay, there is a big confusion about this.
All right.
Because I remember. Can you clarify it, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna clarify this. So this was my mother, Vânia Cavalera. So she came up to me many years ago, and she's really into like numerology and Kabbalist and tarot, all the stuff. So she came up to me and she was like, your name is wrong. You need to add an extra G or an R to your name, so things would, have a better flow. And then, of course, like any other person, if they told me to change my name, I'll tell them to fuck off, But it was my mom, and she gave me the original name. Okay, so of course, as a good, son that I am, I changed my name because of my mom. So Igor with 1 G, it's not wrong. Okay. And then Igor with 2 G is also right, because after a few years, that's how I start using it. So there's no right or wrong,
Okay. So now people will understand, because it was like, I remember it was one of the first things I asked you when you came here. So yeah. Let's keep talking about the Chaos AD and Roots era. And you started like really being a drum hero. I mean, you were already a drum hero, but when did you ever understand? I mean, when was the moment you said, okay, wow, I'm getting a lot of attention for what I am doing? There was like a moment where you realized, like, okay, this is.
I don't know. I think, for me on the other side, I don't really see that much, I mean, like, of course, like you feel it sometimes where you get a lot of cool compliments, especially from other drummers and people that you really respect. But because I also never searched for that, like that was not my main goal. I was never like, oh, I need to play this to be the most technical thing, or that was never my main inspiration. My main inspiration, of course, it was to do something that also worked as a band, not just as a drummer, because that's also a big difference. Like some things are amazing if you're just playing by yourself, but they don't fit with the music. So there's a little fine line on how can you translate your ideas as a drummer, but also make them work with the music,
That's always an excellent point. It explains like that there are always a good thought beyond a drum beat.
Yeah,
there is a.
Sure, go ahead.
So yeah, as we were talking about, when Chaos AD came out and later on Roots, there were like drum parts that are iconic. And this is something is because if you start like the territory intro, everybody in the metal scene knows that. It's like a painkiller for the extreme people, I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah,
So it's a pretty iconic drum beat, and we all there's a story beyond. I'm sure there's something like you can tell me, how did it started? Actually, one important thing, it was my dream because when I started playing drums in the beginning, I didn't have a teacher, so I was trying to learn by myself. And when I heard the territory beat, to catch, there was this crash in the toms, so I didn't know how you were putting the crash on the middle. So it took me like I don't know how much to finally somebody explain it to me because I
yeah.
couldn't, for me it was like too much even to think about that beat.
Yeah, it's funny because some people thought that it was an overdub also.
Yeah, because we didn't. It was so new. It was
Yeah,
so new.
yeah. A lot
How
of
did?
people thought like, oh, he played just the toms and then he had the crash and the China on it. But it's also a really funny story because how that that intro came up is that I watched the guy from Primus, that band Primus. So the drummer Tim Alexander,
Tim Alexander.
he did this insane role in the show, and we went to see Primus, and I was looking, I was like, holy shit, like a role that blows your mind, And then next day, that was in Phoenix when we were writing Chaos AD, and then next day I came to the rehearsal, and then I was trying to recreate that role that he did, but because I was trying to make it, I was making kind of like a loop. So I was playing that role, that trying to make his role over and over. And I remember Max came in and he was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just trying some." And he was like, "That sounds fucking cool, man." And I was like, "Really?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's try to make this into the song." And I was like, "Oh, cool." So it was completely by accident.
Wow.
And maybe if my brother didn't walk in the room at that time, maybe I wouldn't come up with that, because it wasn't that I was thinking of writing an intro. I was just trying something that, it would, because I remember what he was doing between the crash and the China and the tom. And then I tried to recreate that and create something else.
Wow. That's a cool story, man.
Yeah,
And
it's weird, right?
wow. And I saw a question about territory is an iconic song, but there's also a part. I remember when you were playing in Cagliari, everybody was waiting for. How did it came out? It's like I mean when I this is this is the kind of thing that make everybody, if you're in a car and territory is going on, if somebody's talking, when it comes that part, everybody will like, hey, shh, shut up.
Yeah,
And then how was that part?
that one I don't remember like exactly how I came up with that, because again it was another break where I could either do a complicated role or I could do something that, but I wanted things to be a bit slower at that point of the song. So I want something a little more dramatic. That's why I came up with that. But then again, it's super tribal.
Okay, there are a couple of cool, very cool comments here. And City Propaganda, Best Able to Ever. There is a comment. Okay, this is cool. There is a comment from Marco. Marco owns one of the biggest drum shops in Italy. Called Ringo Music. And I never know he was a metal guy because I met him when he was already with his families and an owner of a shop. So it's pretty cool to have him in here. And he says, it felt so good when I was able to play along the whole Arise album in a decent way back in the days.
That's cool.
Wow. I didn't know. I mean, I thought he was a jazz guy, but okay. So, that's really cool. There are a couple of questions. Okay. There's a question about how was working with Ross Robinson and Andy Wallace.
I mean, they're both amazing. I mean, like really cool. Ross, just so people know a little more, Ross, he's not an engineer. He's just a producer. He doesn't sit down on the desk and actually make things sound, but he has amazing ideas. And then I think that's the biggest difference between him and Andy Wallace. Andy Wallace is that complete guy, which is like not only an amazing producer, but also a sick engineer. So like on Chaos AD, we did the whole thing with Andy Wallace, which was like produced, like he came and participated on the pre-production with us to help with like what kind of sounds we were looking for. And then because he was an amazing engineer, he could get those sounds really fast. He didn't depend on telling someone, oh, I want to sound like this or like that. So, but they were both very, very important, you know, in many different ways. And I think, you know, like another producer that I would like to comment, it's Scott Burns, who did all the amazing stuff, like from Death to Obituary, and a lot of like the Morbid Angel and all those Florida guys. You know, he's an amazing producer that also he taught me a lot as a drummer. You know, like especially when we were talking about a little earlier on the evolution between Schizophrenia to Beneath the Remains to Arise. Scott Burns was a big part of it. You know, he's such a talented guy also as a producer, and he was always pushing me to do crazier stuff.
Okay. What about the sounds? We were talking earlier before the live about the snare drum. You have a very signature sound. I remember, especially in the Chaos AD and Roots, the snare drum is like a machine gun. Can you tell us the model and the drum heads? How are you doing it, and so on?
Yeah, I mean the reason that the drums, especially the snare on those records, it became like you're saying, almost like a shotgun, or I start to tune them higher because I was playing with bigger drums, bigger toms, and I always felt that it had to be like a balance between the low drums of the toms and floor tom, and then if the snare was tuned too low, it would be too confusing. So I wanted a snare that cut through all those like lower frequencies. So I start tuning my snare higher, and then I remember like before that I had a deeper snare, maybe like 6 or 7 or even an 8, and then I went for like 5.5, and then with the right tuning and also the right drum head, which had like a really strong Kevlar drum head that Remo did at the time, which is like made out of the bulletproof material. With that I could get the sound that I wanted out of the snare, because I also I'm not really a big fan of like piccolo snare.
Okay, yeah, because it sounds too, yeah.
Too thin. Yeah, it's too thin. I think it has to have a balance between the crack that you want, that it's like powerful like a shot, but enough body so it's not shallow and really thin sounding.
Okay, cool. And those were your ideas, not the engineer. So you maybe were asking for advices, but you had the sound in your mind?
No, because I always felt, even with engineers, is that if your drum doesn't sound good when you're playing them, they're not going to sound good on the record. So okay. I always had this theory that your drum needs to sound good when you're practicing, when you cannot just rely on someone putting reverb on your toms, or reverb on your snare, or triggers, or any of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, if your drums sound like you want, you know, like if you want like the powerful, you know, big tom thing or whatever, it's so much easier for the engineer to just be like, oh, this sounds good. All I need to do is good microphone placement, and we're ready to go.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I think it's crazy. And I experienced that before when I had like, you know, come to play a show, and then the drums at the venue, which were not mine at the time, they were like smaller, and I'm never gonna get the same sound, you know, like the big heavy tribal stuff out of the small toms, you know.
Okay. Yeah, because especially today we think about sound replacement, but it's taking it's like it's not the same. Even if you trigger a good way, it will never sound as organic as a real drum. And what about
and then of course, like when you see a good drumming sound, it's so much pleasure, man, you know, like anywhere. on YouTube, on a record, or even when you go live, and you can feel that drum sound good. It's so much better than that it's just an effect that someone is putting on the drums.
There's a couple of questions about the project with João Gordo called Revolta. And yeah, actually, João Gordo, for those who doesn't know that, is the singer from Ratos de Porão. Actually, in Brazil, he's a rock star in Brazil. I know Gordo, he's very cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. What about this project?
Well, it's not really a project. It was, I don't know if you know Guilherme. He plays with Entombed, the metal band from Sweden.
No, I know Entombed, but I don't know Guilherme.
Yeah, so there's a Brazilian guy who's been playing with them for the last few years. And it's a really cool guy. And then he wanted to do a song against the Brazilian government right now, and the situation that Brazil it's in. So he put together a team of different people and did a song. It's not really a band. It's not really a project. It was just a song that we did to reflect how not happy we are with the situation in Brazil. So that was it, But it was really cool to do it.
Okay, I didn't know about it. I will check it.
Yeah,
so,
I even did some blast beats on it, which I haven't.
Oh, I will check. I'm really curious.
Yeah.
Lucas saying, "Hi Igor, Arise has my favorite drumming ever. How about you? You think you can you name 3 records where you think that the drumming is just incredible? Name the 3 records where the drumming is top notch."
All right, so I'm gonna start with Cro-Mags, The Age of Quarrel with Mackie. For me, it's one of the best drum sounds ever on that record, and his drumming is insane. It's probably one of my favorite hardcore records of all times. It's the first Cro-Mags, The Age of Quarrel. And then, of course, I couldn't go without mentioning Mr. Lombardo. And my favorite, for a lot of people, it might be a surprise, but my favorite drumming for me of Lombardo, it's on Hell Awaits.
Ah, okay.
Which is like he's in a weird mood in that record. He's not as crazy as Raining Blood and later, but man, some of the stuff that he's doing on that record is just insane. I mean, Lombardo, for me, he's the king. He's one of my main influences since I started, and he never disappoints. He's such an amazing drummer, man. Such a cool guy also, which for me it makes even better.
I will tell you something. He's very cool. I mean, when he came here, he spent 2 days with me, and it was great. And my one of my dream always actually is to make an event with you and him.
Yeah,
I always thought about it. Yeah, we just I always I have his phone, and when I told him, he was like, yeah, sure. It would be like Metal Gods, drum metal icons night. Igor Cavalera and Dave Lombardo.
Do it, man. Let's do it one day. I mean, that's something that I spoke to him about in the past, that I'll love one day to drum together with him in any kind of I don't know if it's a like on a project or on a jam, but it'll be good to drum with him, because he's such an amazing guy.
He knows a lot. I mean, the cool thing, I always wanted to do a drum clinic with you and a drum event with you, because people like you have so much things to teach, to tell us that are way beyond even our most amazing dreams. The day you came here, I always say like this. Okay, we'll tell you something funny. You didn't know about it, but as I said, you are probably my favorite drummer ever, probably, because the influence I got from you back in the days were like absolutely amazing. And when you came here, I remember every word you said about music. It was like stunning, impressive, and that's why I discussed it with you, and we're gonna talk about it now. Like, I believe people like we need mentors like you and Dave to tell us, because I believe also the spirit of metal got a little bit lost. Sometimes when I see shows of metal, it's everything but metal, or at least and when I see, remember when I had the pictures of Sepultura on near my bed, I didn't know, I didn't care about the bands being, so cool with all shaved and all well dressed. It was different, So, and even the music today is got fancy. I saw there was a comment here, about the music getting fancier and fancier and losing the power it has, and especially the drums became very complicated, but it doesn't have the, the soul. So
Exactly. That's the word, man.
the soul. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes about the future project that you have about it. So Mauricio says Cavalera Inflicted was the most amazing thing after a long time. Yeah, that's Inflicted. That's a great example. I remember when I heard the song, I learned it like because in a day just rehearsing, and all the things are perfect. And how did you feel it was getting back to play with your brother after all those years?
I mean, like I said before, like like me and my brother had we have this crazy relationship that we do music in a different way. Like we don't need to communicate. We just look at each other and we know exactly what we need to do. I mean, there is certain shows that like we just have like a little bit of an eye contact, and that's enough. We know exactly what vibe we should go. If I should go like faster, if I should go slower, even like we dictate the times between like certain atmospheres. It's just one look in the eye, and that's something that you can only do with someone that you play for a very long time. But also I have an extra connection with him of being born almost in, we have only 1 year difference between even in.
Okay.
So even it's crazy because he was born August 4th and I was born September 4th, 1 year after.
Wow.
Even the date, like we're on. So it's like we're very connected. So to play with him after many years, which again, it's all part of a relationship. It's never all just good. You go, if you have a brother, if you have any relationship with family, you know that it's complicated. It's not simple. You go through ups and downs, and I had to go through that with my brother. So when we came back to do Inflicted, it was cool because again, it was just about me and him playing in a room together, and that's what we did.
That's a great album. That the song is great. Actually because it's a not a simple, but it's a, how can I say? It's not it's a cool song. I remember when I was like wow, and the drumming is top notch. Actually, it's a cool comment from Jeremy Colson, who's a drummer from Steve Vai. I don't know if you know him personally.
Wow, cool.
Well, but Jeremy, this is an example. He plays for Steve Vai, and he says, "Igor, my hero." So that's fucking cool. So as I said, I wanted my whole thing with you was actually to give you the credit and actually telling you that we need your informations and your things to make metal drumming a better place. Let's say it's a cool thing. Graziano says, "Me and my brother, we started a band with you and Max as inspiration." Thank you. So you just get, as many people are telling, thank you. It's a cool question. It's like Marco said, is there an album that you wish you recorded? Not
That's a cool question. I mean, not only that, but also I think I forgot my third record.
yeah.
I dove into the Lombardo thing. So another record I have to say, it's of course by Bill Ward from Black Sabbath. He's one of my favorite drummers of all time, and of course, like the first Sabbath record. It not only, like we're saying, the imperfection in the sounds, it's just magical, like, and he's drumming on it. It's insane. So yeah, to top that. But I don't know. That's a pretty crazy question. If there's an album that I wish I recorded, of course I have many dreams, like you're saying, like like jamming with Lombardo. It's one of the dreams, and working with different people like that. So I don't know. I don't have a record itself that I wish I had play on it or record it. But if you ask me a musician that I would like to collaborate, or a producer or something like this, I think that's easier, you know.
Okay.
Like I said, someone like Lombardo, or even doing stuff with different people, more like, you know, of course, like I don't know. There's so many ways of doing things, you know, and that's the beauty of drumming. I think drumming, it has to be something that expands your mind. It's not to close your mind, because, you know, again, like I explained in the beginning, I start with samba, and then it took me almost like whatever, like 15 years to go back to samba again and bring it back to where I want it. So that's only, you can only do that by being always open-minded, and trying to incorporate those ideas into your drumming.
That's a very interesting thing. There's a comment cool. It says, Fabrizio says, we need that kind of drummer. Guitar player needs that kind of drummer too. That's cool, Fabrizio. You know, as a drummer who's also a musician, and you are just saying something very, very important about drums, you know, and the mentality. Because in order to be original, you have to be brave enough to do what you think it's right. You know, then that shows a lot. Because, for example, in Italy, as I said previously, the mind was so closed that they anything I remember when I was a kid, anything that wasn't a classical jazz album was bad, and that's why actually in Italy the music scene never grew that much compared to Brazil. So okay, let's move on the present. You know, because on 2 days, because we said this live is also not only a way for me to see you again. It's always a pleasure, as I said, and I, as always, invite you to come here when things will be better. We do an event together. It will be my pleasure. And what about the future of Igor Cavalera? Because, as I said previously, you know so much, and it was like you are a kind of person who is not easy to reach. You know, for many years wasn't easy. As I said, to organize your drum clinic, it was like really complicated. I don't know how much
you had to talk to the FBI.
yeah, but I was ready to do that. You know, I said, because I said, okay, I did the one with Dave Lombardo, so now I will do the same with Igor. I will do it, and I did, and it took me a lot of effort, but I did it. So right now, what are your plans? Because as we said, you not only you find out, you know, and you have also like I believe you have a very strong way of explaining things, and you are a very good and positive musician. And because I remember when you were here, you made people jam with you, and some people will never forget that. Like I know a friend of mine who still to this day, you signed his drums. I don't know if you remember. You signed, and let me tell you a funny story. He bought the drum set, and he paid like it was a I don't know how much. It was a very expensive kit, and he bought like 2 days before. And he said, before I play that, Igor will sign it. And he's still on that. So it shows like completely like a fan of you. So what are you going to do?
I don't know, man. I mean, that's the thing. Like with the whole pandemic thing slowing down a lot of the tours, and you know, I have to be honest. I reach out to different people like you, for example, because I would like to experiment a little more on the creative process of drumming, and just talking to people, and like you said, I think, you know, the jamming thing, that was something that was very important for me. Like if I go to a workshop, for example, and my favorite drummer, he tells me, you can sit down on my drums and have a go. For me, that's cool.
Wow, that's the coolest thing you can do to somebody who was a new guy.
And I always try to bring that element somehow to the workshops, where it's like, and that can be done if we're like, for example, online talking, just to bring a bit more of a personal level to it, you know. And that can be something that for me, it means a lot more than just, you know, like going there, playing a show, and going home. So, well, I guess what I'm trying to do is to spread a bit of my knowledge, and exchange ideas, because I also believe that I have a lot to learn as a drummer. You know,
Wow.
you never stop learning from drumming. You know, like every day I watch something or I listen to something, you don't stop. I think that the moment you stop learning from drumming, you die. You die as a drummer and you die as a person, because that's at least how my brain thinks. It's like, it's endless, man. It cannot. It's something that we can't think that we did enough. And sometimes even that can be recreating yourself, doing stuff that it's more minimal, and some people need to understand to play very minimal drums. It's hard, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We want to hit everything all the time, and sometimes just to keep a strong beat, like that's why people like Vinny Appice or
I
Bill
love
Ward,
him. I love him. I love him. Vinny is a great. He's
like they
amazing.
had some minimal stuff where especially when he played with Sabbath, it was something that was very inspiring for me, because again, it was about going inside and being like, wow, this really works for the music, not just for the drummer.
And I have a question for you, but before that, I will ask a question to the audience, because I want to know from the people that are listening to our watching our live stream, what would you like to learn from Igor? Imagine what would be your dream moment. Like, okay, I want to have like online classes, or I want to see like a drum tour of, I don't know. It just came an idea. I want to see a drum tour of, I don't know, a Chaos AD where you play all the songs. Actually, I would pay like my monthly income. Just pay you just play Chaos ID and near me, and I can ask you, okay, what about this? What about that? So for the people who are watching us, what would you like to learn from Igor, and how? We are currently working on just bring to the people the Cavalera, the Igor Cavalera drum experience, the Igor Cavalera drum world. So we need your feedback.
That's cool.
I spoke with Igor already, but we need your words. And while they type, I have a question for you, Igor. So at some point, you disappear from the metal scene, basically, and you started doing electronic music. How did that happen? And how? Because I remember it was like you were done with metal. Am I wrong?
Well, it was a combination of a lot of things. Like, for example, I left Sepultura, and then it was like I wanted to take a break from everything, and then I just felt at that particular time, I was really bored with like rock in general. I felt that every band was just like stuck doing the same thing over and over. And then I started listening to more experimental and electronic music. And that, for me, that was really cool, because again, not being trapped to one thing, it's really important, but always to try to keep an open mind. So I try to learn from electronic music, learn from different ways of drumming, of different ways of approaching the drums, even like by chopping, sampling, and doing things that I never really felt comfortable with in the past. So that was like a period where I was really fed up with everything. And then, of course, the minute that I start to get back with my brother, we start exchanging more and more ideas. And my brother, being who he is, which is a person that knows a lot about underground music, he starts showing me some stuff that it got me interested again in metal and rock and hard music in general.
I can see like when you came back, you were more punkish, more hardcore, more I would say not really not metal. Of course metal, but in a punkish way. Like you were having like doom patches, or like it was like the more raw stuff.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like that's something that was always part of me and Max. Like we always listened to those bands, even like stuff from Italy, like bands like Raw Power, Negazione.
Ah,
Like,
okay. I tour with Raw Power. I know them. I know
yeah,
them.
man,
I know.
they were way cool back in the days, So like those stuff for me, they speak very loud on my drumming. And then of course with Cavalera Conspiracy, I was trying to have an approach of doing something very direct to the point, and that's where it came from.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm checking here the answers. What would you? because we got some cool feedback. So yeah, the idea, you know, of a drum tour playing like the songs or for a particular album would be cool. Like, you know, something very cool that Derek Roddy did. Derek was like letting people see him from the side, and he was like, "I have no secrets." You know, I says I'm human. So even if I do like a tiny, well, I was playing, of course, he was playing great. You know, but it was very cool the fact that he didn't fear that to have people near him. And that's cool because
Yeah.
for some people it was like, okay, for example, we can always think about an event. We can okay, I will start giving some tips, some ideas, and then we see what people said. You know, we could always divide like the Cavalera experience in smaller or bigger groups. So like in the bigger groups, you play the songs and you did what you did here, like you jam with people from the place. That's
Yeah.
they will never forget that moment. But also we can try to think about like smaller groups. When you like 10 people, they will stay near you and you play that beat and you explain, you know, why you do that, why you do that kind of feel. So basically dividing the idea of the Cavalera experience in two. You know,
Yeah. Almost like an X-ray.
yeah, exactly. Oh, this is cool. Igor Cavalera drumming X-ray. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, like people can see how you tune it. You know, I would like, and many people they are writing here what they want, which is like that's a cool thing to think about. You know, and here we got okay. The questions are sorry. The topics could be like some people says, you know, tribal drumming into and translating it into metal, or you know, I would like to learn the Brazilian attitude that matched perfectly with the metal, you know, and or Enrico says could be like videos explaining feels and cool tricks,
That's cool.
and yeah, you said again, tribal attitude, and learn how to play musically, you know, learn how to play musically. That's a cool thing. So yeah, you said people says like Chaos AD War Tour, Drum AD, you know, Drum AD
Yeah.
War Tour. So I believe, you know, there are many things. For example, you know, I would like, as I said, not only love to see you from near, but it, always what you say, the reason why you, you do something. That's the cool part of it. People could also like spend an evening with you where they play your drums, and where you know, or like having somebody playing guitar and you writing drum parts into that, it would be cool
Yeah. Yeah.
also.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there's actually a cool comment about Jeremy Colson. We said some people wrote he's the drummer from Steve Vai, and some people commented that in Brazil he was playing the beginning of Territory as the intro. That's very cool. So Jeremy says, "Thank you, Igor, for the deep inspiration for being yourself on the drums and breaking out metal stereotype. Bringing the tribal and electronic influence into the drums is what the metal community needs to see more of. You have never been afraid to do something different." Wow.
Yeah. I mean, thanks, Jeremy, for the kind words. But it's really important for, like I said before, you know, like to, as a drummer and as a musician, to have an open mind, you know, and that's something, of course, like I remember when I was 15, I didn't care, you know, like all I wanted to listen was like hardcore metal, like I didn't want to listen to anything else. But then again, later we start realizing that it was so much cool shit, you know, like in all different styles of music. And but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to bring all of that into your drumming, but you can bring certain elements, and that makes a difference. You know, like even like stuff like hip hop, for example. I remember like watching, you know, like someone like even like Danny from Biohazard. He was incorporating a lot of hip hop beats into Biohazard back in the days, and for me that was like mind opening, because again, it wasn't someone just trying to play punkish hardcore. It was trying to break barriers, and that's very important, you know, like to break those barriers. And then of course, by doing this, you can only do it if you try, and also not being afraid of being silly, because sometimes it doesn't work. That's another reality. Not everything it's perfect, you know. Sometimes you try certain things and they're not so cool, and that's part of it also. You know, you got to be silly sometimes.
Okay, I will keep asking questions because many people are watching, but I want more. I want to have more feedback. What would you, what? Okay, what would be your dream event with Igor? I will just place this here, and so people can see what will be your dream event with Igor. So this is for the people who are watching. I can see we have 60 people, and we reached even 80 sometimes. We now we have 60 people, and we have on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook page. So my question is to you who are watching. We need your feedbacks in order to understand what the best thing, because Igor will be touring again, and I want, as I told him, my dream is to have an Italian or an European tour or a Brazilian one. And as I said, I was impressed by how many cool things he told me in only one day. You know, it was many things. I was like, because you don't know, but as I said, when we went to the airport, I went by myself to meet you, because and you know how many people are working with me, right? So there are like 20 people. I said, no, 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 no. This is the moment I've been waiting for 20 years. So it was like, and I remember I had my Roots and the Chaos ID record on the car, ready to be signed. And this is, as I said, I was lucky enough to think about the event, but many people, I think they would benefit from an event with you. So I said I need also their feedbacks. But as we are seeing now, they are into understanding how to be more musical, that to be thing, about to learn more about your style, you know, the tribal thing. So these are offshore. You see, Mauricio said, bring him to Norway for a workshop, dude. Mauricio, as I said, this live is also because Mauricio works in a school. As I said, this live is a way to me to talk with Igor again, to share ideas with you, and also everybody like you, Mauricio. I know you are a big fan of Igor. What would be your dream event with him? So also, I guess Igor, you are interested, right, to understand what people wants to wants to know, because I remember the day you were here. For example, let me explain to the people what happened. You basically you see the workshop. They are asking a lot of stuff, you know. Here the guy saying, my own dream is 70 is to tour with Cavalera, supporting Cavalera conspiracy. Yeah, but this is now about, yeah, Graziano says a clinic in Napoli too. Okay, so Graziano, the question was about what, you know, to do only with Igor. So this is about Igor and his drumming. So that's the question. As I said, a clinic in Napoli. So all these people, please get in touch with me. I will keep your address, your contacts, and when things will be better, we are gonna plan absolutely a tour, and we're just deciding how to make it the coolest possible.
Yeah.
Igor, what about you? What would you like to do in an event? That's a question. Now let's turn it another way.
Yeah, no, I think it's important. Like I said, you know, the important thing is to inspire and also exchange. You know, that's really important, because it's not just about me. It's about an exchange of ideas, an exchange of you know, like vibes and things like that, and that can make something special. Because again, if it's just about me teaching or me showing some stuff, I can record this by myself and just put it. But it's not. I think it has to have a little more of a human element to it, and that's why, especially at this times, I think it's important for us to think about how to communicate in that sense, and how to make it special. It's not just something that you can just go and watch, and you know, it has to have a bit of more of a, I don't know, like we're saying, something more with a soul to it.
That's cool. You see, Maurizio says he could choose his favorite drum parts and talk about them. Yeah, there is a lot, you know, a lot of people
That'd be cool.
asking. That would be cool. So yeah, we are getting into the final part of the live. We're getting to the final part. So we just ask him more about the event. As I said, this live is a way to thank you for everything you did. For first of all, from my point of view, because without you, there won't be. I mean, if you think about it, without you, there won't be any school, any Bateras beat school in Europe. There won't be like, yeah, it's true. There won't be many And for example, here we have, okay, let's place it this way. Here we have 140 students, and in all Italy we are now 500 students. And
Amazing.
without you, I would never have started playing drums. So that's pretty big. So there's always,
Right.
I always think it's important to give back and to pay respect to people who did something that it's way more than just drums. That's a lifetime experience. Another question here, another comment. He said you could also do like violinist workshop. We could happily to play some stuff, and he could give us his opinion. That would be cool.
Yeah, that's super cool also, because again, it's another way of exchanging ideas, and I really enjoy that,
Okay. So currently you are living in UK, and okay, I have a question for the people. Would you like to have like a online course? If there was like an online drumming course with Igor Cavalera, what would be like the things you would say? Okay, if there is this topic on the DVD, I want it. It's seriously more drum camp for us, And some people say, just see Igor playing whatever he wants would be a dream event. So yeah. Boy, Fabio says, my dream is to be your drum tech. You give me the passion for metal, and now I'm a professional. Thank you. Wow, that's cool. That's pretty cool to see. To see how many good things are coming back. So now Igor is saying, sorry, Sergio Franco Filho says, to me, Igor took hip hop elements, boarding from H&M and Danny from Biohazard were adding their music and added to this fresh and tribal roots, resulting in his own style from Chaos AD on. Yeah, you see. Okay, Rolando says, old school drummer, you should be insert on Patrimony of Humanity for what you did and for your precious knowledge. Respect. Rolando is a great drummer from Italy, so I like him. So, guys, what would you like to learn? So we're talking about tribal stuff and tribal groups, and now we have the final minutes of this live, and we are working with something special with Igor, and we wanted to make as special as it can be. And in order to do that, I want to have also your feedback. So what about the question is, would you like to have like a website with an online course? Would you prefer like a book or a DVD with the drum parts? So, and while they say that, because those comments will stay on the timeline. So I want to start like, thank you for your time. It's been 1 hour and a half, and there is really no words to say how much I'm thankful.
Thank you, man.
And
That was and we need to do some more. We, like I said, this is a starting of something that it's really cool. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, I can only do this with people that I trust and people that I respect. And Raphael is definitely one of those guys.
Man, for people who will watch, it's my dream. Really, it's a dream moment. And as I said, one of the things, when I believe it's important, especially in today's world, because many people, they don't pay respect. They go online and they spread shit and stuff. And today has been a very positive, people talking. And I always said, I will always respect you. Actually, there's a very big comment I wrote on YouTube. Because there were some people fighting bullshit, and I just wrote something. I will always respect Igor and his legacy, because without him, we would be just some idiots. It's really hard, but we are playing, music, and what they did for metal. We should like wake up every day. A friend of mine told me he would like to wake up every day and like say and then to Igor and to Dave Lombardo. Yeah, that's true. Because without you, there wouldn't be any of this. So as I said, I am more than honored to have your trust, and I will do everything I can to give you what you deserve, and actually what we want, because we want Igor Cavalera. We want to see you. There's many. Okay. Sorry, there's a couple of. Sergio says you should really dissect the origins of Chaos AD online workshop. This could be cool.
Yeah,
this is a good idea. And also Matthias says a biography book, maybe a drum biography book could be cool. A biography book, maybe a biography for drummers. So I was playing like this and then turned to this. This would be cool. And let me see more. Okay, there's many. Yeah, tribal. Then Igor says, Igor, were you surprised by the large audience to watch Conspiracy playing Beneath the Remains?
It was amazing, and I have to say it was really also fun to revisit those records. You know, like I forgot how much fun it was to play those songs. You know, and then of course, like me and Max, we had such a good time playing those. You know, like doing Beneath the Remains and Arise combined together in one gig. And I have to say, it was a lot of hard work, man, because those songs are hard to play live. So it was fun, but I remember the first few shows, I was like, why did I accept this? This is crazy. So it was cool. It was a good challenge on
Okay,
myself.
okay.
And I really loved it. You know, like I have to say, it was cool to see the amount of people that wanted to see those songs played, you know, like the way they should be played and the way they should be
And,
singed also.
okay, and played by the people who wrote them. So that's something I said, because when you see somebody playing who did that, it's always, for example, I'm a big fan of Morbid Angel, and when they changed lineup, and even if they were, of course, excellent musicians, still it wasn't the same. So I understand why people want to see, because they want to see that guy doing that thing. It's like
Yeah. I mean, and I respect, you know, like all the other people who change things and do play. But again, like you're saying, it has a special flavor to it. If it's that person who wrote that, who thought about that, and who's playing that at that moment, you know, and that makes it even more special for someone who will see the show.
of course, yeah. And okay, another thing would be tips for writing sessions. Yeah, there are many things coming. So a guy says, if you release a DVD, I will keep forever and watch 1 million times. Yeah. Now we
I
say
don't
DVD.
player, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. We said DVD, but we meant like an online course, because things are changing pretty fast. So yeah, I believe we got we keep getting a lot of comments, but we are going to finish now. Correction for the live, Rafael. Igor, thanks for the inspiration. Check my channel. Yeah, actually, Maurizio recorded a cover of Military Mangoes. Very good, very good.
Nice,
And so, as I said, this is for the people who wants to get in touch for future workshop. I ask you, please, to spread the word. We are working on something very special, and just tell this to people. They can get in touch.
Come up with something new soon enough. You know.
Yeah. This was a beta testing. Igor is going to be invited in a very huge live from a very famous Brazilian drummer. I won't say anything, but it's gonna be cool. And as I said, feel free to talk about this and know that Igor is going to do something very special. Talking to your friends, to people who are doing events, and it's on my channel. So just contact me. I will keep track on everything and talk with Igor. So once again, I will finish this live saying again, thank you, Igor. As I said, an absolute honor, and I am so really happy, to have met you. And you are, I really, if you think, you are the reason why I play drums. Sometimes people says, yeah, and I mean, listen. I was like, when I bought Chaos AD on the. I just said I live in a small town, and when I bought the record, and you were Brazilian, as I am, I was like, oh, a Brazilian drummer, it was like such inspiring and everything, people when people say me that in the first year, they were like, hey, you play very hard. What does it came from? I said, from the one and only, that's not even a question. And it's always been, people in Italy, they were like bashing people who plays hard. And you were the reason why I keep playing hard. Because I was like, he's playing hard.
But there's a big difference between just playing hard, because you need to play with passion.
Yeah, of course.
And that's super important. And again, it's like some of my favorite drummers, they hit like they supposed to. Every hit counts.
You told me this in Cagliari when we were drinking coffee. Every hit counts. Yeah.
Every hit counts, man. Because again, if you want that to hit someone deeper than just music, you gotta reach, that extra.
I like this mentality. Actually, important thing. Graziano says, I am in Napoli and I have a cultural association like what I have. Please, we're gonna talk about it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah. So
Thank you, man.
just contact me. I will just do my job. And yeah, actually, it's a dream of a lifetime being working with the IGOR Cavalera. Yeah, guys, I will organize your thing. It would be great. So yeah, people are thanking you and it's inspiring, as I said. Keep up the great job and stay safe. See you in Poland.
Yeah, man. Poland rocks.
Poland rocks. And as I said, imagine doing this to people. We gonna do this. And yeah, once again, I don't wanna keep it short again. In Italiano, grazie, and in Portuguese, obrigado por tudo que você fez para a cena mundial de batera.
Obrigado a todo mundo. Boa noite. Good night. Buonanotte.
Yeah, they're getting crazy. So you just finish it here and we keep talking about it. And yeah, so that's for today. Keep in touch, and Igor is gonna be back, and you will see him from very close as you always dream about it. Good night to everyone. Sorry, and even?
We'll make it even more special with some drums next time.
Oh, absolutely. Have a good night, everyone.